time for a little update. First 10 days in Isan has not been as uneventful as I thought it would be, because we were told that the 10th of August we could start doing the building process, and I thought, well, that means we've got nothing to do, just lay around and maybe do some planning, but other than that, nothing else. I was wrong. So just to give you a quick update on what we have been doing, then there was actually quite a few things to do before we could start putting the pillars into the ground. We went to pick up some wood somewhere. At the point when we picked those up, I had no idea what that was for, but I was not hired in to know much. I was just there to put my muscles at good use. So we picked up some long wood and brought it back to the land where we got to build, and my dad-in-law started cutting it up, and I still have no idea what it was. But it soon turned out it was because we needed it to measure the land by which we're going to build it. I mean, I had an idea that we're going to make a house that is going to be about 150 square meters big, but it had to be surrounded in order to figure out the level of the land and figure out the level of the pillars. So we had that done, and then we had the whole area we're going to build the house at framed with these iron bars. And it was not just a matter of framing the area, this was a matter of having the exact place measured where we were going to dig the holes for the poles. And that was the first one where I started getting a little bit nervous about this project, because my dad-in-law, he measured in a certain distance in on these metal bars, and then he had to find the 90-degree angles to the other end, and he was just doing that with this tiny little measuring tool and these wires, and there's no way you can make that particularly accurate. So I was getting a little bit nervous about what was going on there, but it turned out this was just a matter of figuring out where to dig the holes, and the holes were obviously considerably bigger than the poles there were, so there was no problem there. But the next one, which I really found was interesting, and that actually went prior to this measuring the 90-degree thing, that was to get these metal bars level. We had a leveler, so it's one of these water levelers, so there's not really a problem. But he used a different method, and I can't help thinking that's probably a more accurate measurement of doing that, because you're not eyeballing it the same way as you're doing with a water leveler. And he was using this transparent tube filled with water, and then he was just looking at the water level where it starts at his end, and then asking us, being in the other end, if we were at the same level, or not at the same level really, just telling us to mark where that level was, and that would always be totally in level, obviously. So that was the way he leveled up that area. That was a new thing for me. Then we had the pleasure of digging the holes. I had no idea how deep it should be, and it also turned out that we made it ever so slightly a bit too deep, though I thought they were not as steep as it at all should have been. But I think we went down to about half a meter, or maybe even less, or maybe about half a meter under the wire that was put out between the bars. So the hole itself we dug was probably about 30 to 40 centimeters only. That took a good deal of time too, because we had a lot of rainy weather coming in, so it was only in between we could do these diggings. And we also had all the time in the world, as I wanted to say, because we were not supposed to be doing any serious building or raising the pillars anyway anytime soon. And so yeah, once we had all that settled, we got a few materials board, and well, then we were ready to do the building. Now this process, the 10th of August process, was quite interesting. There's a lot of superstitions going on in this kind of world, this part of the world at least, and they are doing these kind of things obviously with the need of help of people, and that's kind of a community thing they do. So they had people from around the village invited over and to help out doing this, and after that we will sit down and we get some food and celebrate it a little bit with a beer or lau cow or whatnot. But raising the pillars was also something that was there was a tradition to. First, the guy who was invited specifically is a kind of I would not call it a religious advisor, but it's probably something in the vicinity of that. He's not a monk, but he's somewhere similar, and he had to know how the house was planned to be made in terms of directions and this and that, and then based on that he decided which pillar was the first one to go and which one was the second one to be put in place. And I had no idea about all this. I mean, I was busy trying to do some filming, and then obviously I wanted to be hands-on wherever I could. But hands-on is not just a matter of lifting with muscles, it turns out, because at pillar number 1 and pillar number 2, they had to be blessed first. So I was pulled in and had this bucket with some scented water and some leaves of sort. I have no idea what it was. And then I had to dazzle these poles. And the important part was, I understood it, that the important part was I was not supposed to take a break while I was doing it. I'm not supposed to pause and then do it again. But what my wife actually told me was that I was not allowed to cross the beams. I was not cross to these pillars as they were lying on the ground. Now, just by coincidence, I never did that. I have got a video footage of the whole seance, if you want, from a drone. So I could actually verify later that I did not cross any of these beams. And some of the ladies, they were then also walking around for each hole and putting some leaves in there. They were putting some gold leaflets that we had been to the monk and had him prepare for us. There has to be some inscription in it. So we bought these gold leaflets, and then he had to do something with them. And they were also laid in the holes, and there were a few coins laying in the holes. And this is all about prosperity and fortune and good health for the people living in this house. So in all the holes, they put things like that in there. It's just a few baht of a sort, it's the tongues. And then we had to raise the pillars, and the first and the second pillar was, like I said, it was very important to me and my wife and me. We were part of that process. So I was getting up to the end of the pole because I thought, hey, I got to make my weight worth something, so I got to pull my weight. But I know I was told just to go down in the bottom part of it and just be part of the process of making sure it gets right in place. And this was the case both for the pillar number 1 and pillar number 2. And then after that, there was not a randomness to it, though it did look like it, but the guy in the white t-shirt was actually directing things. He was the one telling, now we got to do this one, now we do that one. And when we brought the pillars in, they were also laid in a specific direction relative to the hole. It was also a very specific thing. So there was a lot of details there that I just had to wing it when I was there, because I had no clue. And so we got all these pillars in, and it only took about an hour, 4 men strong on each pillar when they were lifted to place, and then just lifted up. And then later that afternoon, after we have had this little picnic gathering, people were getting some food. It was a couple of chickens from the farm here that was killed for the purpose and prepared in Isan style. I have no video of that. I probably should have done that, but I was busy with doing a lot of other things. And so they just took off, like, I don't know, a couple of hours after we started. Then it was all done, people were gone. Now our job that day was to make sure that the pillars were actually standing in line and that they were angled correctly. And that was a meticulous work, but it was also made in a way that I've not seen before. My brother-in-law, he brought in this little triangular pendular kind of thing in a long string that he just hammered onto a bamboo stick or something like that. And then he basically just put it on top of one of these poles, and then had to have the line going straight down. And this pendular thing obviously was pretty heavy, so it was quite steady. And that was basically the way they leveled out every single pole vertically to be in the right position. And then they measured it out, and it turned out that the way we've dug the holes was varying a little bit. Well, not just a little bit actually. I think it was about 20 centimeters of difference between the tallest and the smallest one, the lowest one. So they had to put in some dirt underneath, also sand underneath it to lift it a little bit, some of the poles. So that was a bit of a work we had to do there. Which reminds me, the preparation part of it was also to fill all the holes with a certain amount of concrete, so that it was hardened, and once we were going to raise the poles, they had a solid foundation to stand on to start with. And that was a bit tricky because we got massive amount of rain, so the whole area was basically flooded more or less, and we had to secure these plastic covers, because the first night they was just breaking on us, but the second night they were properly secured and we had no accidents with that. So the holes were dry when we had to start this ceremonial kind of process. And so yeah, we got the pillars up, and then we just had to fill them in with a lot of concrete. And again, here was another thing that surprised me. I thought we were going to sit there and wait maybe a day or two and make sure that the concrete was cured properly, but no, the concrete was poured in the hole to the level of which it should be, which was basically just a bit above the foot of that pillar. And then we just straight away pulled all the clay or the dirt or whatever and whatnot on top of that, and that was done deal. So yeah, it only took one day. We were very fortunate with the weather. There was no rain at all. We had one time of the day where we had some heavy rain pulling in, and it looked really dark, and I was 100% sure we were gonna get it. But for some lucky reason, it just slided straight past us and we had nothing. So it was a perfect day to get things up and have those things done. So that is actually where we are right now today. Apart from a little detail, I might just as well take that along in this little summarizing video. This detail is, when I was looking at the house, I have to say my wife wanted this L-shaped house, which is all good for me. I don't care really. I just want the functionality to be right, okay. And so my job has really been more to figure out how do I make an L-shaped house work in terms of functionality, room and space, and also how do I turn the house so that I optimize the use of the home in consideration with the wind, with the rain, with the sun, with the noise levels from the roads or for the farms, and optimizing the possibility for privacy for various things. I mean, it's got to be privacy both in terms of their bedroom and office and our open space areas, and so there was a lot of things I have to consider. And because of the way it's designed, I needed another 2 meters originally on my office part to make that big enough. And for doing that, I needed to add another 2 poles to my otherwise 5x5 concept, which is made of 6 rooms. It's 150 square meters, but then I had these 2x5 added on, and because it was 2 meters extra, they could not do that without having extra poles. So I ordered 12 poles for it, knowing that the 2 poles are needed for my my outdoor area was not going to lift much, so it didn't matter. We could use very small poles for that. But then I changed the plans, and I only needed 1 meter, and 1 meter was not so much that they needed another pillar, and if they don't, or pole. So if they don't need that, we could use somewhere else. So we used that for the area for the open space area, the porch or whatever you want to call that. And so here we are. Here's what it looks like now. A very bright sunny day. But the thing was, right here we had this pole that I now pulled out of the ground. We have it here because that pole annoyed the butt out of me. Because if I was to imagine myself being here at this area, which is planned to be the terrace, it's gonna be the outdoor area, which is roofed, so we do have shelter from rain and sun, then this would be my view. And as it stands right now, it is beautiful and unobstructed right out to that little pimple of a mountain, and I love that. But if I had this pillar here standing right there, it would have been obstructing my view. So that annoyed the shit out of me. But luckily my brother-in-law and my father-in-law, they said, well, we don't really need that pillar, so if you want to take it away, you just do so. So that was a project for me today, and I thought it was going to be a project. It was going to take me forever, because after all, it took me almost forever to put it down there, and we were 4 men doing it, but it took me like 3 minutes, 2-3 minutes, and it was out of the ground. That in turn also have me a little bit worried, because if that is the foundation of which the house is built on, it's not all that solid. But I think I have mentioned it before, and if I haven't, I can definitely tell you now, I am so thrilled that I absolutely got no clue how to build a house, because I suppose if I had, I kind of detect that there might have been various places where I might feel a bit annoyed, to say the least. But as it stands right now, and as I've said to them, after I got this pole off and I actually have myself an open porch area that I know is going to be sheltered with a good and unobstructed view, I really don't care too much about all the other details, as long as I stay dry when it rains. That's basically my fundamental requirement, and I think that's going to be. So as far as the roof is going, which is we're going to do in the next following days, and I'll keep you updated on that, then we'll just start by doing all these kind of things that goes across, that has to carry the roof. I don't know the English terms for that, and you probably won't know much about it if I use the Danish terms. But the global house where we bought it has already delivered. They said they would deliver it tomorrow, but here it is already. So that's ready. So the only thing that we're now left with is just have that made up there, and I have no idea how they're going to do that. I have zero idea, absolutely nothing. I keep asking them, did you have all you need to mount these on top of these pillars? And they just look at me and say, yeah. And I haven't seen what else they're gonna need, and I have no idea, but we'll find out. That's part of the fun of this process here. I get to detail something that I've never seen before. So yeah, the building process is progressing as planned, actually as planned in every aspect and sense to this day. So let's hope it keeps on doing that, and we'll soon enough move in. So I'll keep you updated whenever we got something new. And until next time, as always, get out there yourself and explore.